You ever been to a place that feels like it's stuck in time, like the world just passed it by and nobody noticed? That's Willow Creek, a dusty little town out in the middle of nowhere, where the roads are cracked, the signs are faded, and the people, well, they've got their own way of looking at you, especially if you don't fit their mold. I'm going to tell you about a woman named Lena Carter, a 28-year-old black woman who grew up in this town, fought for it, and somehow against all odds changed it. Lena was no stranger to hard times. Orphaned at 10, she was raised by her grandma, Miss Clara, in a creaky old house with a porch that sagged like it was tired of standing up. She was tall, wiry, with a quiet strength in her dark brown eyes that said she'd carried more than her share of burdens. Her hair was always pulled back tight, practical, like she didn't have time for nonsense. And in Willow Creek, nonsense was all people seemed to have time for, especially when it came to her. Lena ran a shelter called New Dawn, a beat-up little building on the edge of town for kids nobody else wanted, abandoned, disabled, forgotten. Kids like her, in a way. She'd pour every cent she had into that place, every ounce of her heart. But in a town like Willow Creek, where folks clutched their wallets and their prejudices tighter than their Bibles, that wasn't enough. She'd walk the streets with flyers, the ink smudged from too many hands shoving them back in her face. "Why don't she just give up?" they'd mutter behind her back, loud enough for her to hear. Ain't nobody care about those kids or her. It was a Tuesday morning, gray and heavy, the kind of day where even the sun seems too tired to show up. Lena pulled her rattling old sedan into the town's only gas station, a peeling relic with pumps that clicked like they were counting down to the end of the world. She had a stack of flyers under her arm, same as always, hoping to pin one up on the bulletin board inside. The air smelled like diesel and stale coffee, and the usual crowd was their old guys in trucker hats, a cashier with a permanent scowl, a couple of teens loitering by the ice machine, smirking like they knew something you didn't. They all noticed Lena the second she stepped out of her car. You could feel it, that weight of their stares, like she was trespassing just by existing. She was used to it. Thuff didn't even flinch, just kept her head up, her steps steady. That's when she heard the shouting. Over by the first pump, a guy was standing next to a gleaming black motorcycle, all chrome and leather, looking like he rode straight out of a movie. He was tall, broad, with tattoos curling down his arms like stories nobody in Willow Creek wanted to read. His jacket had a patch that said, "Iron Reapers," and that alone was enough to make the locals' eyes narrow. The gas station attendant, a guy named Roy with a face redder than a summer sunburn, was laying into him. "You think you can just roll in here and scam us? No cash, no gas, pal." The biker's name was Caleb. Raised his hands, calm but tense, like a man who'd been in this spot before. "Look, I'm not trying to scam anybody. My phone's got my card, but it's not working here. I just need to get Hamimi Dad's real sick, and I'm out of cash after helping some kid back in the last town." Roy wasn't having it. "Oh, sure, the old sick dad story. I've heard it all, buddy. You bikers are all the same trouble on wheels." The crowd started to buzz, a low hum of agreement, some chuckling, others pulling out their phones to record the drama. Lena stood there, frozen, her hand still on the gas pump, watching it all unfold. She saw the way Caleb's jaw tightened, the way his eyes flickered with something like hurt, but he didn't snap back, didn't raise his voice. He was trying, and nobody cared. She knew that feeling too, well, the way a town like this could make you guilty just for breathing. Roy reached for his phone, smirking. "You got 10 seconds before I call the sheriff, and trust me, he don't like your kind." That's when Lena moved. She didn't think, didn't hesitate, just walked straight over to the register, her sneakers crunching on the gravel. "I'll pay for his gas," she said, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. The whole place went quiet. Roy blinked, caught off guard. "You serious, Lena? You don't even know this guy." The teens snickered, one muttering, "Guess she's got a thing for trouble." Lena didn't even glance their way. She pulled out her wallet, thin as it was, and counted out the bills money she'd saved for more flyers, maybe a few groceries for the shelter. "I don't know him," she said, staring Roy down. "But I know what it's like when folks decide you're no good before you even open your mouth." The crowd shifted, uncomfortable, their smirks fading. Roy muttered something about her throwing her money away, but he took it, printed the receipt, and Lena walked back to her car without another word. Caleb caught up to her before she could drive off. Up close, his eyes were a stormy blue, sharp but not cold. You didn't have to do that, he said, his voice low, rough around the edges. I know, Lena replied, simple as that. He held out a hand, offering to pay her back, but she shook her head, a tired little smile tugging at her lips. Just get where you're going. A breeze kicked up, and one of her flyers slipped from her car, fluttering across the pavement. Caleb picked it up, his eyes scanning the words, New Dawn Shelter, a home for every child. He looked at her, then at the flyer, something shifting in his expression, but Lena was already pulling away, the engine coughing as she left the gas station behind. 3 days later, Lena was sitting on the steps of New Dawn, her elbows on her knees, staring at the cracked driveway. The shelter was falling apart, leaky roof, peeling paint, a fence that looked like it might collapse if you leaned on it too hard. Inside, the kids were laughing, their voices bright despite everything, and Miss Clara was sorting through a pitiful box of donated canned goods. Lena felt the weight of it all, heavier than usual, like she was carrying the whole damn town on her shoulders. Then she heard Ida low, rumbling growl, like thunder rolling in from the horizon. She looked up, and there they were, a line of motorcycles, maybe 15, chrome glinting in the evening sun, pulling into the shelter's lot. Behind them, a couple of pickup trucks, beds piled high with boxes. Her heart thudded. She stood, slow, as the engines cut off and the dust settled. Caleb stepped forward, helmet under his arm, that same flyer in his hand. You dropped this, he said, a faint smile tugging at his mouth. Lena stared, her mind racing. You tracked me down over a flyer? Caleb's smile softened, and he glanced at the shelter, then back at her. Name's Caleb. Caleb Holt. My crew calls me Iron, sometimes. Long story. 3 days ago, you didn't have to help me, but you did. Nobody else gave a damn, but you stepped up. He paused, his stormy eyes holding hers. I saw this, he held up the flyer, and I figured maybe it's time someone showed up for you. The other bikers started unloading the truck's boxes of food, blankets, medical supplies, even toys for the kids. Lena's throat tightened. She didn't know what to say, didn't know how to process it. Miss Clara stepped out, her cane tapping, eyes sharp as she sized up the rough-looking crew. You all just here to drop off supplies and ride out? She asked, her voice half suspicious, half curious. Caleb chuckled. Call it karma, ma'am. Or call it me not liking owing anybody. He looked at Lena. You saved my ass. We're here to help. That was the start of it. Over the next few months, things changed in ways Willow Creek never saw coming. The bikers didn't just drop off supplies and leave, they stayed. They fixed the roof, patched the walls, rebuilt the fence. Caleb was there every weekend, hammer in hand, joking with the kids, ruffling their hair, teaching them how to tighten a bolt. The townspeople watched from a distance at first, whispering, judging, like they always did. Trouble's just waiting to happen, they'd say. But then they saw the kids smiling, saw the shelter's faded paint replaced with a bright new coat, saw Lena standing tall, not backing down, not apologizing for who she was. And slowly, something cracked. The old men from the diner started showing up with tools, muttering about just helping out. The corner store lady brought over a box of clothes, her arms still crossed, but her eyes softer. Even Roy from the gas station stopped by one day, awkward, handing Lena a check for the shelter. Don't make a big deal out of it, he grumbled, but Lena just smiled, tucking it away. The town wasn't fixed, not by a long shot, but it was shifting, like a rusty gear finally turning. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late summer, the air warm and buzzing with cicadas. New Dawn was hosting a little gathering, not fancy, just some folding chairs, string lights, and hand-painted signs the kids had made. The whole town showed up, not just the usual crowd, but shopkeepers, teachers, families who'd never set foot near the shelter before. Lena stood on a small stage, a wooden plaque in her hands, etched with the words, Lena Carter, for courage and heart. The mayor, a nervous guy who'd barely looked at her a year ago, cleared his throat into the mic. This town. We haven't always done right by you, Lena, but you showed us what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. The applause started slow, then grew, rolling over the crowd like a wave. Lena looked out at them, Miss Clara wiping a tear, the kids grinning by the steps, Caleb leaning against his bike at the back, his arms crossed, a proud smile on his face. She raised the plaque, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. This isn't about me, she said. It's about those kids, about choosing to see past the labels, past the color of someone's skin, or the patches on their jacket, or the stories you've already decided are true. Hope's not a building. It's what happens when people show up, even when you never thought they would. The crowd clapped again, louder, raw, real. And for the first time, Lena didn't feel like she was fighting alone. Willow Creek wasn't perfect, it never would be. There'd still be whispers, still be folks who'd cross the street when they saw her or Caleb. But that night, under the flickering lights, with the hum of motorcycles in the distance and the kids' laughter mixing with the breeze, something had shifted. New Dawn wasn't invisible anymore. Lena wasn't invisible anymore. But here's the thing: change like that. It's messy. It's complicated. Some folks in Willow Creek still grumbled, saying the bikers were just buying goodwill, or that Lena was stirring up trouble by shaking the status quo. Others said it was a start, a spark, but not enough to fix a town built on old grudges. And maybe they're right. Maybe one shelter, one act of kindness, one night of applause doesn't erase years of pain. But maybe it's enough to make you wonder, what happens when the people you least expect become the ones who change everything? So what do you think? Is Willow Creek's change real, or just a fleeting moment? Can one person like Lena really shift a whole town's heart? Or is it all just a feel-good story that fades when the lights go out? Drop a comment, share your thoughts, your stories. Have you ever seen someone stand up against the odds like that? Hit that like button if this hit home, and subscribe to catch more stories that make you think, make you feel, make you question what's possible when people choose to show up.